We all suspect something from time to time. We pursue what we suspect. We want to reach a conclusion. Philosophers are among the most doubting people. But there is one philosopher who doubted everything, including his own existence. That philosopher is René Descartes. Before we move on to his philosophy, let us examine his life. Descartes was born on March 31, 1596, in the village of La Haye en Touraine, France. After studying at a Jesuit school, he began to study law at the University of Poitiers in 1616. However, due to his interest in philosophical and scientific studies, he decided to pursue these fields. Descartes had a military career at a young age and traveled to various European countries. During this period, he developed his thoughts on science and philosophy. He lived for a long time, especially in the Netherlands, where he completed many of his philosophical works. Descartes' best-known work is Meditations on First Philosophy, where he is known for the phrase cogito, ergo sum. This idea builds the foundation of existence on reasoning and doubt. He also discusses the scientific method in his Discours de la méthode. In mathematics, Descartes developed analytic geometry. By introducing the coordinate system, he introduced a method of expressing geometric figures with algebraic equations. This is one of the cornerstones of modern mathematics. Descartes spent the last years of his life in Stockholm at the invitation of Queen Christina of Sweden. He tried to teach his philosophical views to the Queen, but his health deteriorated due to the cold weather conditions, and he died on February 11, 1650. In his Meditations, Descartes, who aimed to find a solid foundation for all sciences and philosophy, first doubted all the things he knew to be true, and wanted to reach a knowledge that could never be doubted, and to make this knowledge the basis of all sciences. Following a methodical doubt in this way, Descartes doubts the external world and his own existence because of the possibility that the senses may deceive him from time to time, and that he may be dreaming. Regarding mathematical knowledge, which is seen as the most reliable knowledge, Descartes continued his doubt by stating that an evil genie could be deceiving him, and therefore this knowledge could also be false. At this point, Descartes realized that he doubted everything, but he did not doubt that he doubted himself. That is to say, the fact that he doubted himself was the most certain knowledge. Descartes expressed this in the words, "I think, therefore I am." Descartes says that the senses are misleading, and that something that is misleading even once should not be trusted again. For example, let's imagine that we are sitting in front of a fire, wearing our cardigan and holding a piece of paper. How can we deny that these hands holding this paper, this body, this head, are not real? Descartes answers this with the dream problem. In our dreams, we can sit in front of the fire and hold paper in our hands, and we cannot distinguish this from reality. Descartes says that even if we are in a dream, these are real things, and he explains this with the example of a painter. Even painters, when they use all their ingenuity to depict sea and forest nymphs in unusually strange forms, cannot give them entirely new forms and features, but only a certain mixture of the organs of various animals. Or if their imagination is so strong that they invent something unprecedented, so that their works depict things that are entirely invented, at least the colors of which they are composed must be real. This is how Descartes explains this possibility of being in a dream. Even if we are really dreaming, the things we dream about are real things. Descartes doesn't think there is any problem in relying on the science of mathematics, because whether we are asleep or awake, the sum of 2 and 3 will always make 5, and the square will never have more than 4 sides. Descartes has a strong belief in God, but he doubts even God. What if this whole material world doesn't exist, and God is making Descartes see it? In short, could God be misleading Descartes? Here, Descartes assumes that it is not God who is misleading him, but an evil demon. Because God is absolutely good, and an absolutely good God would not commit an evil act, such as deception. Therefore, Descartes continues by assuming that an evil genie is trying to deceive him. Because of this assumption, he says that he will approach everything with skepticism. Descartes writes in the Meditations, "I will therefore carefully avoid introducing any false ideas into my beliefs, and I will keep my mind so ready for all the tricks and traps of this great deceiver that he will never be able to make me accept anything, no matter how powerful and cunning he is." This skepticism of Descartes becomes very tiring. In his book Meditations, he says that it is difficult to be so skeptical, that facing the truth frightens him. But even if the evil genie is deceiving us, it doesn't mean that I don't exist, because for the evil genie to deceive me, I have to exist. Descartes takes this problem to the next level. He says that mind and body are independent of each other. Descartes says that we cannot know things outside the mind very clearly. My mind seems very clear to me, while everything else seems more suspicious. But if these are two different things that are independent of each other, how are they related? This problem raises another question. If everything outside my mind is secondary to me, how can I be sure of the reality of nature? He answers this with an example in his book, Meditations. Let's imagine that we have a blue scented candle, 6 centimeters high, cylindrical. We light this candle and wait for a day. Now the space that candle occupies in space, that is, its shape, its form, its smell, all its qualities have changed. But I know that it is the same candle, even if all its qualities have changed. But Descartes cannot clearly prove the reality of nature. He relies on the existence of God to prove the existence of the external world. God is good if God is perfect. A good God would not deceive me about the existence of the external world. Therefore, the external world must really exist. This idea may surprise us. Descartes, who doubted everything, is equally skeptical about the idea of God. But for us, Descartes is so important not because he was the end of scholastic philosophy, but because he was the beginning of modern philosophy. Descartes made a great contribution not only to philosophy, but also to sciences such as mathematics and astronomy. What makes Descartes different from his predecessors is that he reached the human self with his thoughts. The great philosophers who would come after him would continue on the path opened by Descartes.